Okay, I want you to start by just visualizing something with me. It's a scenario I think we have all lived through, and honestly, it's usually enough to just ruin your whole morning. Picture this. You need to renew your driver's license, or maybe, I don't know, file for a business permit. You sit down at your computer, coffee in hand, you're ready to go. You navigate to the government website, and it looks like it was built in 1998.
Oh, I know this movie. The font is tiny, the links are broken, and
Yeah.
you're clicking through 5 different pages just to find the start button.
Exactly. And then, the grand finale. You spend 20 minutes filling out a form, you finally hit submit, the little wheel spins for an eternity, and the page times out.
Session expired.
All your data is gone.
It is the universal digital struggle. It's funny. We can order a car to our door or, buy groceries with a fingerprint on our phones in seconds. But interacting with the government often feels like stepping into a time machine, and not the fun kind.
It just creates this massive disconnect, doesn't it? It makes the government feel distant and, frankly, broken. But, and here is the hook for today. What if I told you there is a blueprint to fix that? What if there is a plan to make federal digital services actually, well, good?
And not just good as in it works,
Yeah.
but intuitive, secure, accessible even.
Today, we are doing a deep dive into a document that is essentially the government's battle plan for this exact transformation. It's a draft solicitation from the General Services Administration, specifically their Technology Transformation Services Division. They call it NXT.
NextXT really is the perfect name for it. Technically, we're looking at the Next Generation IT Solutions Blanket Purchase Agreement. Now, I know the phrase blanket purchase agreement probably makes your eyes glaze over.
Yeah, it sounds dry.
It sounds like the driest thing imaginable.
It sounds like we were buying office supplies or something.
Right. But if you look under the hood of this document, it's actually fascinating. It is, and I'd argue this, one of the most important tech signals coming out of Washington right now.
How so?
Because it's the government admitting, in writing, that the old way of buying technology simply doesn't work anymore.
That was my biggest takeaway. This didn't read like a standard contract, it read like a strategy shift. So the mission for this deep dive is to unpack that shift. We aren't just talking about procurement rules. We are talking about how the government plans to pivot from buying stuff,
Like servers and hours of
labor, to buying outcomes.
That is the key word, outcomes. And to give you a sense of the scale here, the GSA, which is basically the landlord and the buyer for the entire federal government, is looking to establish approximately 6 of these agreements.
6 of them.
They are creating a massive pipeline to bring modern tech companies into the fold.
So before we get into the specific technologies, and there is some really cool stuff in there about AI and fraud detection, I want to talk about the structure. I saw something in section 8.1 of the source material that seems small, but you flagged it as a big deal. It was about the preponderance of work.
Yes, this is a subtle but revolutionary detail. In the world of government contracting, things are usually very, very siloed.
Okay.
If you're a cloud vendor, you provide cloud hosting. If you're a design agency, you draw the website. You stay in your lane.
Which makes sense on paper, but that's not how you actually build software, right?
Exactly. You cannot build a modern, secure application in a vacuum. You can't design the user interface without understanding the security underneath it. So this preponderance of work clause basically says, look, we know these disciplines blur together.
Oh.
So even if a task order is technically for design, if you need to do some coding or some cloud architecture to make it work, you're allowed to do that.
So they are finally breaking down the silos.
They're trying to. The document explicitly says they're looking for flexible, scalable, and outcome-based IT solutions. They're acknowledging that, in 2024 and beyond, you can't just write a rigid specification for a piece of software that won't launch for 3 years. The tech moves too fast.
Okay, so they've built this flexible structure. Now let's talk about what they're actually buying. The solicitation breaks the work down into 6 support areas. The first 3 feel like the foundation, the how do we build it part.
Right. And support area 1 is the absolute bedrock. It's labeled DevSecOps and Secure Modern Development.
DevSecOps. I feel like we hear that buzzword a lot in the tech industry, but for the government, this is a very specific shift, isn't it?
A huge shift. Traditionally, government IT followed a waterfall model. You'd spend a year writing requirements, a year coding.
Right.
Then you hand it to a security team to inspect it, and finally you hand it to operations to run it. If security finds a bug, you go all the way back to the start. It's so slow and painful.
And by the time you launch, the technology is already obsolete.
Exactly. DevSecOps just smashes those silos. It stands for development, security, and operations. It means you are integrating security and operations into the coding process from day one.
Okay.
The solicitation specifically asks for CI/CD automation.
Let's unpack that acronym for anyone listening who isn't a software engineer. CI/CD.
Continuous integration and continuous delivery. Think of it like a manufacturing assembly line for code. So instead of building the whole car and checking if it starts at the very end, you're testing every single bolt and gear as you install it.
Got it.
It allows you to push updates constantly, daily, even hourly, rather than once a year.
So if a bug is found, they can fix it and push the update almost immediately.
Yes. The document also mentions containerization and infrastructure as code. These are the tools that allow companies like Netflix or Spotify to stay online and update their apps without you ever even noticing. The government is saying, we want to build like that.
That leads perfectly into support area 2, because you can have the best code in the world, but if the website is confusing, nobody uses it. This area is digital services and experience design.
This is the human element.
Okay.
And honestly, this is the antidote to those terrible websites we were talking about. The source text is heavy on human-centered design, user research, and journey mapping.
Journey mapping really stood out to me. It implies they aren't just looking for someone to make a web page look pretty.
No, it's much, much deeper. Journey mapping means understanding the user's entire experience from the moment you realize, oh no, my passport is expired, to the moment the new one arrives in the mail. The website is just one piece of that journey.
I see.
They want vendors who can analyze that whole path and fix all the friction points.
And I was really happy to see the emphasis on inclusion here. They reference Section 508 and WCAG compliance multiple times.
That is non-negotiable. Section 508 is the law that requires federal technology to be accessible to people with disabilities. Whether you use a screen reader or you have motor control issues and use a keyboard instead of a mouse, these services have to work for you.
So it's a core requirement, not a nice to have.
Not at all. It's fundamental.
And they also mention multi-channel experience design, which, basically means make it work on my phone.
Finally, yes. They are acknowledging that the desktop computer isn't the only way people access the internet anymore. If you're a single parent on a bus trying to apply for benefits, you're probably doing it on a smartphone. The system has to accommodate that.
Okay, so we have the development method with DevSecOps and the design with experience. But all of this data has to live somewhere. That brings us to support Area 3, cloud, infrastructure, and cybersecurity.
The plumbing. But very, very sophisticated plumbing. The days of government agencies having their own dusty server rooms in the basement are ending. This area is all about cloud migration and moving to resilient, scalable cloud platforms.
But the big buzzword in this section was zero trust. We hear this term thrown around in cybersecurity a lot. What does it actually mean in this? Right, and we've seen that happen in some really big data breaches.
Zero trust completely changes the rules. It assumes the hacker is already inside the castle. It trusts no one. Every time you try to open a door or access a file, the system checks your ID again. It validates every single request, regardless of where it's coming from.
That sounds intense, but necessary.
Absolutely necessary.
Wow.
And the document links this to FedRAMP, which is the Federal Authorization Program for Cloud Products. They are setting a very, very high bar for security.
Of course.
I mean, let's be honest. The government holds our most sensitive data.
So that covers the building blocks, DevSecOps, design, and cloud. That's the foundation. But as I read further, support areas 4, 5, and 6 felt heavier. They felt like they were tackling some of the biggest problems society is facing right now.
You're absolutely right. The first 3 areas are about how we build. The next 3 are about what we're trying to solve. And support area 4 is a big one, identity verification.
This is the prove you are who you say you are problem.
It is the hardest problem on the internet. How do you prove you are you to a computer without having to physically walk into an office with your birth certificate?
Right.
The solicitation is asking for a government-wide digital identity service.
They mention entity ownership and control verification and legal validation. It really sounds like they are trying to solve this issue once and for all.
They have to. Because if you get identity wrong, you either block legitimate people from getting help or you open the door to massive fraud.
Which leads us directly to support Area 5, fraud detection and threat mitigation. We saw this during the pandemic, didn't we? When the government tried to push out relief funds quickly, the fraudsters were just waiting.
It was a bonanza for criminals. Bots, synthetic identities, organized crime rings, they siphoned off billions of dollars. The government learned a very hard lesson. You cannot rely on manual checks anymore.
The source material here explicitly lists bot detection as a key capability.
Yes, and risk scoring and anomaly detection. They want vendors who can build systems that watch the traffic in real time. So if an application comes in, the AI should be able to say, wait a minute, this IP address has submitted 500 applications in the last hour. That's not a human.
It's basically an automated immune system for government spending.
That's a great way to put it. It's moving from pay and chase, where you try to claw money back after it's been stolen, to stopping the theft before it even happens.
And speaking of AI, that brings us to the final pillar, support area 6, AI strategy and implementation. Now, everybody's buying AI right now, but the language in this section seemed, well, cautious.
Cautious and responsible. That is the standout feature here. They aren't just asking for natural language processing or computer vision, though those are in there. They are explicitly asking for responsible AI governance and ethics frameworks.
I found that fascinating. You don't usually see the word ethics in a procurement contract.
It is a clear signal that the government knows the risks. They know AI can hallucinate. They know it can be biased against certain demographics. They're telling vendors, if you want to sell us AI, you have to show us the safety rails.
So they aren't just buying the engine, they're buying the brakes and the steering wheel too.
Exactly. They mentioned virtual AI agent support, but it's all wrapped in risk management. They are effectively codifying responsible AI into the contract. It's not enough for the model to be smart. It has to be accountable.
So we have these 6 massive areas covering everything from code to ethics. It's a comprehensive wish list. But here is the part where the rubber meets the road. You can write the best wish list in the world, but if you pick the wrong companies to do the work, it's all for nothing.
And that is where the NEC-XT solicitation gets really, really innovative. The evaluation process itself, the way they pick the winners, is designed to filter out the noise.
Usually, a government proposal is just a writing contest, right? Whoever writes the best 300-page novel wins.
Precisely. It favors companies that have armies of professional proposal writers, not necessarily the companies with the best engineers. But NEC-XT just flips the script.
Yes.
Section C and Section E describe a phased evaluation.
Okay, let's walk through that. Phase 1 is the opt-in.
Right. So to start, you just submit a capability summary. It's a short document. You don't have to write the 300-page novel yet.
That lowers the barrier to entry significantly.
It does. It means a smaller, innovative tech firm can throw their hat in the ring without spending, say, $50,000 on a proposal writer. The government then reviews these summaries and does what they call an advisory down select.
Which is basically a polite way of saying you have a shot or don't waste your time.
Exactly. They tell the vendors, based on what we see, you are unlikely to win. The vendor can still proceed if they really want to, but most will take the hint.
Right.
It saves everyone time and money.
But for the ones who make the cut, phase 2 is where it gets really interesting. This is the show don't tell phase.
Phase 2 is primarily oral presentations.
Oral presentations. So
Yes.
instead of submitting a binder of paper, they have to actually get on a call and present.
Yes. They have to address their technical approach, their management, and their risk strategies live. And here is the kicker. The government usually requires the actual key personnel to do the talking. You can't just send your charismatic sales guy.
You have to send the lead engineer.
Or the program manager, yes.
That changes the dynamic completely.
It simulates the actual work environment. I mean, if you win this contract, you're going to be in meetings with government stakeholders explaining complex technical issues. If you can't explain your solution clearly in the pitch, you probably can't do it on the job.
I noticed in Section F that the technical approach is listed as the most important evaluation factor. Is that more important than price?
In terms of the trade-off, yes. They check for price reasonableness, of course. They aren't going to overpay wildly.
Right.
But they are clearly prioritizing the quality of the solution. They want to know how you are going to solve the problem.
This feels like a system designed to catch the companies that are all hat and no cattle.
It is. It's designed to find the doers. And once they find those doers, Section H ensures they keep performing. It talks about outcome-based metrics.
This circles right back to our mission statement, buying outcomes. What does that look like in practice?
Well, instead of a contract that says, we will pay for 1,000 hours of developer time, an order might say, we need to reduce the error rate on this application form by 50%.
Wow.
Or we need to improve the system uptime to 99.99%.
So the vendor is incentivized to actually fix the problem, not just bill hours.
Exactly. It aligns the government's goals with the vendor's incentives. If the outcome isn't met, the performance metric isn't achieved. It forces a results-oriented mindset.
So when we step back and look at this whole picture, the GSA is using NXT to build a bench of vendors who are agile, who prioritize design and security, and who are vetted on their ability to actually explain and deliver technical work. It feels, I don't know, optimistic.
It is an optimistic document. It assumes that the government has the maturity to manage these flexible outcome-based contracts. And that is a risk. It requires smart government program managers to make it work. But if they pull it off, it creates a mechanism to modernize the federal government much, much faster than the old way.
It feels like they are finally trying to catch up to the commercial world. And honestly, thinking about that AI section again, I wonder if they might actually end up leading the commercial world in some ways.
That is a provocative thought. What do you mean by that?
Well, think about the Brussels effect, how regulations in Europe often become the global standard because companies just want to comply with one set of rules. The U.S. government is the biggest buyer of goods and services on the planet.
True.
So if the U.S. government says, to sell AI to us, you must have a rigorous ethics framework and explainability protocols, that moves the market.
It absolutely does. If Microsoft or Google or Amazon have to build these robust governance structures to win a contract like NetXT, they aren't going to build a separate, less safe version for everyone else.
Right.
Those standards will likely bleed over into their commercial products.
So we might look back at this solicitation as the moment responsible AI stopped being just a buzzword at tech conferences and became a hard requirement for doing business.
It's very possible. When the government writes a check this big, the market listens. It's regulations driven by purchasing power.
It's a fascinating ripple effect. And on a more personal level, I just hope it means that the next time I have to renew my passport, the website doesn't crash.
Let's start with that. That would be a victory in itself.
Small steps. Well, thank you for helping us unpack this. It's a dense document, but the implications are huge for how our government functions.
It was a pleasure. It's nerdy stuff, but it really matters.
It really does. And thank you to everyone listening. We will catch you on the next deep dive.